Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Last night we had a really cold night. It went down to minus 14 degrees Celsius. I tried to keep all the newly repotted trees here warm in the greenhouse. I kept the heat on and it stayed just above freezing, which is good. So today I'm going to be repotting this elm tree. This is an elm that just germinated in this pot and started growing, so it's never been repotted. I did prune the top of the elm tree, but the root base has never been touched. Here is a look at the tree. It's in a very large pot. Whatever was in this pot must have died, and this is just a seedling that grew all by itself, and you can see it's growing right near the edge of the pot, which means it'll probably have a one-sided root system. There's also a little spruce tree that grew in the pot here, so I'll repot that also. The buds on this elm are just starting to swell, so it's a good time to repot it. I'll be glad to get it out of this pot because it's a large pot for the size of the tree and it takes up a lot of bench space. I'm not sure what kind of elm this is. It just grew in the pot, so I assume it's one of the native elms. So let's get it out of the pot now. This pot is all broken up. There I go, and you can see the roots growing down beside the pot here. Alright, I'll begin extracting the trees from this soil. I'm going to start with this little spruce seedling. Get that in a safe spot. It's amazing how fast these little seedlings will grow. It may be just a little seedling now, but 4 or 5 years from now, it'll be something that's starting to look like a little miniature tree. If it survives this repotting procedure, which it should. Oh, there's my first crane fly larva of the day. Yeah, I don't have the heart to, just chuck these little volunteer seedlings that grow in the pots. I always try and pot them up and make them into a bonsai. If I don't keep it, it's good to give them away to someone who might appreciate growing it. There's another crane fly larva. Yeah. There's always someone who will take them, especially once they get a little bigger. You can start to see the tree-like form. There's another crane fly larva. But these hardy trees, I have lots of space to keep them and overwinter them. It's more the tropical trees I have to be very careful not to collect more of because I have only a limited amount of space inside. Outside, these seedlings, you can keep them in the poly house and they seem to do fine. Or if you're daring, you can leave them out on the benches. And if you have a mild winter, they'll survive. If you have a really, really cold winter, the chances aren't as good for survival. There's another crane fly larva. Finding lots of them in here. Whatever was in this pot, it's not growing in bonsai soil. There is some bonsai soil somewhere in the pot, but I'm not sure what was in here. Well, there's the root of whatever was in there. There was something in here. Now, can I get this little seedling out? Oh, it's really locked in there. Okay. So I've got, a fair amount of roots with this little seedling. It should survive. I won't do any root pruning to it. I'll just pot it up into bonsai soil. And hopefully it'll survive and grow into a tree. So I'll set that aside. Now I'll continue to extract the elm from this massive pile of soil. It is very heavy, this soil. Oh, there's some plastic thing on the bottom of this pot. I don't know what that is. Must have been an insert in that pot. I'm thinking this was, Connor gave me a beautyberry tree that didn't survive the winter, and I'm thinking it might be from that, this pot. So you can see the roots, they didn't grow in this clay soil here of the elm. They grew down in the spot underneath the pot where there was lots of air. So, just goes to show, you know, roots need air. They don't like to grow in this heavy clay soil. They prefer something with more air. So this mat of roots on the bottom here, I think I'm just going to cut it away because I won't be using it. They're too deep into the pot, so I'm just going to start doing some rough root pruning here. Pruning away these long roots that are growing underneath the tree. To get rid of that bird's nest of roots on the bottom. So that's got those trimmed away. And I can continue combing out the roots. Get all this clay out of here. I'm making good progress. The tree is almost bare rooted. Okay, I think I'm going to clean up and we'll come back and do the root pruning on the tree. So here is a look at my root base, and you can see where the pot was, that all the roots are flat on this side. You know, even though they come out in a fairly nice radial direction, but there was just no room for them to spread out, so they grew straight down instead. So I see some major root pruning coming on this tree. And again, you know, the tree's young. The chances are it will survive. But if it doesn't, well, it's either, you know, you make it into a bonsai root base or the tree dies, one of the two. So I've got a lot of different levels of roots. I have some coming up here from this side of the tree, and then on this side the roots are very low. And the trunk kind of has a curve to it. So I'm looking at the trunk taper. It kind of thickens up to about here. So I'm trying to decide, do I keep these roots on this side? Where do I draw the line? I think I remove them and keep the lower ones. So let's do that. Let's remove these upper roots here. There's one gone. Take this one off too. And then I'll clean that point up. Make it fairly smooth so it heals over eventually. I think that's pretty good actually. Like that. Then I still have, you know, these roots up here that are kind of out of the root plane. There's some lava rock jammed in here. So I think these ones are too high. If I have my root base down here, it would be better. So I'm going to remove those ones also. There's one gone, and this other one up here. Pretty severe, but otherwise I'd have all those different levels of roots, and I mean it would look okay, but it's not what I'm after. So I'll need to do a bit of cleanup work here. Yeah, it's going to be quite a wound here. But elms also heal over very quickly. So I think that's pretty good. It's got it fairly flush. Once that heals over, it should look okay. So then down to my root base here. So I've got a root that's too high here. Get rid of that. Another one here, a little fine one. I think those ones are okay. Wow. So elms are the kind of trees that grow fairly easy from cuttings, so you know you can do some fairly major root work and have the tree survive. And I think that'll be the case today. So you can see this one, kind of the tap root comes down. I have some radial roots on this side, but this tap root has to get reduced back. Like that. And I think I've got to take it even further. It's still going down into the soil too much. So I think maybe here. Like that. It's a good cut. And I think also these roots. Getting the root base fairly flat at the bottom. There's not going to be much left once I'm done here. And then this root, it's not too bad. It's a little horizontal, but I think it's okay. I'll keep it, at least most of it. There's one growing down here. This one's coming off at a funny angle. Put it off short. Okay, so I think that is about it. It's, you know, you can see there's the potential for a root base to grow there. So I'll get the tree planted now. I'm going to put some rubber cement on these cuts I made, just to kind of seal them. I don't know how much of a difference it'll make, but I don't think it'll harm the tree. So I'll just put it across the roots. Might seal them a bit and help them recover. Like that. And now I'll pick out a pot for the tree. I picked out a plastic training pot for the tree. It's quite large, but elms are fast growers, so it should fill this pot full of roots by the end of summer. And I'm hoping in this series, you know, by showing lots of different examples of root pruning, seedlings, and young trees, that it gives you an idea of how to deal with some of these difficult root bases. So I'll get a base layer of soil in the pot and get it potted up. Okay, in goes the soil. So a little more, I'll build up a mound for the tree and then see how it looks. Well, let's put the best side of the root base towards the front. So maybe here. So I'll build up a soil mound, place the tree in the pot, and fill it in. I don't have to worry about air gaps in the roots because there's very few roots. It's basically a cutting with some roots started. But I have a feeling it'll do well. Like I said, these elms, they're pretty tough trees. And it's a good size. There's lots of sap and energy stored in the trunk. So I'm not too worried about it surviving. I think it'll do quite well. So I think that's a good level of soil. And this tree, if it does get branches down lower, you know, there's some buds here and there, it could get reduced in height eventually. Here's a look at the tree in the pot. It's just a stick in the pot at the moment, but I hope you'll see it in the future develop into a really nice tree. So let's give it a water. All right, here I go with the water. It is very cold in the greenhouse here today. We're sitting at about 6 degrees Celsius. I've got some rocks I can place on the surface of the soil here just to hold the tree in place until those roots get established in the pot. That should be good there. So that tree is ready to grow. The buds are swelling on it. It's just waiting for spring. My elm is all ready to go, so next I've got to repot that little spruce. Here is a look at my little spruce seedling. And when a tree's young like this, when it's grown from a seed, you have the freedom of growing it into any style of tree you want and any size of tree you want. The larger you grow the tree, the longer it'll take. So I'm thinking of growing this as a little mini tree. I've got all those pots I'm making, so I think I'll keep this one really small. I've picked out a little nursery plastic pot for the tree. I won't do any root pruning yet. I'll just plant the tree and I'll wait until it gets more roots that kind of fill the pot before I start some root selection. So the next time I repot it, I'll do some root pruning. So I'll get a drainage screen in the bottom of the pot and plant the tree. I've got a drainage screen in the bottom of the pot, so I'll add a base layer of soil, like that, and then I'll plant the tree. I'll just put the roots in the soil, and I'll try and arrange them so it's kind of maybe the start of a radial root base. Maybe. Can't really do too much. All right, I'll fill it in now. Like that. So these little trees and little pots, the secret of keeping them alive is to keep the soil moist. And to do that, you need like a tray of sand underneath them that you keep wet at all times, and that, you know, sucks moisture up from underneath the pot into the soil. And frequent watering and misting help. These little trees aren't for everyone. You kind of need to be there when they need watering, that's for sure.
so far I found them, you know, in this size pot to be quite easy to take care of. So let's give the tree a water now. All right, here I go with the watering. I think I need my small watering can for this. I've kind of got water going everywhere but in the pot. There, that'll do it. Just get the dribbles in there. Okay, that should do it. Another thing I do is on top of this layer of bonsai soil, I put some sand. Let me just get my spoon here. And the sand seems to hold the moisture in a little better on the surface of the soil. So it stops it drying out quite so quickly on hot days. It's kind of like a layer of sphagnum moss on the surface of your bonsai. It seems to do, you know, a very similar, or have a similar effect holding moisture in. Just like that. And I'll give it another watering just to settle that sand down a bit. So here I go. Just like that.
Today I potted up 2 volunteer seedlings, one a larger elm and this little tiny spruce. So that is it for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.